On a white background, one by one, dark blue letters appear, forming the text, "The Collective Impact Project presents." The titles fade. Again, one by one, dark blue lettering appears, forming the text, "Making Room for Change." The word change is in a lighter blue. Titles fade. In between two sets of two horizontal lines, one blue, one yellow, the title appears, Intersectionality. The title dissolves to a head and shoulders shot of Fran.
Although the term intersectionality has been around for over 30 years, it is only recently that the term has been taken up by civil rights movements. But what does this term mean in relationship to deaf people and people with disabilities?
On a white screen, dark blue letters appear, one by one, forming the text, "What is intersectionality?" Video switches to head and shoulders shot of Janelle, speaking in sign language through an interpreter.
The intersections or the crossroads that we see. And as situations arise, we may pick one side to stand on. Well, that's not possible when we have so much intersectionality. We can relate that to a fruit or a vegetable with the several layers that comprise these things. As humans, we are complex individuals. We live different lives. We have different experiences. And so when we understand these external and internal challenges and oppressions and pressures, we take on differing perspectives. If you really look closely at the deaf movement, it's predominantly white, and there's a lot of activity. But where are our Asian and Black and Indigenous community members? There's a lot of comparisons, and we need to stop these comparisons and respect the diversity and differences and include everyone in these movements. We need to consider race, gender. Those are easily identifiable. However, the concepts of language, deafness, and disability tend to be excluded from these conversations. We need to work together, take the time, be cognizant, work toward these goals, continue to spread these messages. And once we continue to do that, we will mobilize, but we need to consider the diversity.
Head and shoulders shot of Kelly.
I am an Indigenous woman with an intellectual disability who is a mother. Being an Indigenous woman with an intellectual disability is harder for me because there is lack of education in terms of government support. They're very limited. There's barriers. There's lack of understanding within the government, those that work in government, of what an intellectual disability is. The way that society paints certain communities, such as the Indigenous and Black communities, for example, of, that we're all troubled individuals. We're the category meaning, okay, a mother, such as myself, mental health issues and, okay, labels of can't afford to support your child. You got a mental health issue, therefore your child's unstable. Let's, put, involvement in, child protective services.
Fran.
I am someone who identifies as an older, cisgender female, white-skinned, and is part of the LGBT community. But I'm also someone who lives with different disabilities. I'm a wheelchair user, and I'm also someone who's hard of hearing. But I do not experience and live out these identities separately. They all combine to make me what I am and who I am. My different identities are not kept separate and distinct. Rather, they are blended in different systems of oppression such as queerphobia, patriarchy, ableism, and ageism.
Head and shoulders shot of Ben.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ben, and I am a Black male with parents who were born in Ghana, West Africa. And I also live with partial sight of retinitis pigmentosa. So it is very important that the disability movement diversifies the scope, because disability is indiscriminate. So anybody could have a disability. It doesn't matter your culture, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your sexual orientation. You can live with a disability. So it's so important that representation is key, because there are people who are missing out on services and missing out on aspects to disability, so resources. And this is because they're not represented. They don't feel that they're being seen. For example, me as a Black man, it's difficult to admit that you have a disability because of it has that stereotype of vulnerability. But when you start getting Black men who are proud of their disability, who are resilient from the disability, it provides people or youth to look at it and make changes and be proud of their disability and reach their full potential. So it's so important that when we look at these intersecting identities, that we could clearly pinpoint the issues that a community is going through. So, for example, when you look at police brutality, sometimes we only get the scope or the perspective from someone who's able-bodied. But what about someone who does live with a disability, who is a Black male? Because of my identities, I almost feel like I am an anomaly. So when people think of someone who lives with a disability, they don't quite think of someone who looks like me, someone who likes to wear earrings, and someone who's a little bit muscular. So I love my identities.
Video dissolves to a white screen. Credits appear in dark blue lettering. Collective Impact Project. Making room for change. The word change is in a lighter blue. Intersectionality. Content producers, hosts, and editors. Elliot Dewhurst. Dorami Ealing. April Dobbin. Fran Odette. Ingrid Palmer. Doris Rajan. Skittles Rosa. Christopher Sutton. Lori Van Holt. Heather Wakas. Video interviews. Bernard Akuko. Kelly Johnson. Dr. Janelle Roos. English audio description, Corey Stuvey. ASL LSQ captioning and French audio description by Wavefront Center for Communication Accessibility. The Wavefront logo is present. The Collective Impact Project Steering Committee. Autism Alliance of Canada. CCRW. Council of Canadians with Disabilities. Inclusion Canada. L'Arch. Realize. Rick Hansen Foundation. Spinal Cord Injury Canada, and Wavefront Center for Communication Accessibility. Video production by Eric Nettle and Doris Rajan, with Nettle Media Incorporated. The Government of Canada logo appears with a small Canadian flag over the final A. Funded in part by the Government of Canada's Social Development Partnerships Program, Disability. Copyright 2023, Autism Alliance of Canada, Canadian Council on Rehabilitation and Work, Council of Canadians with Disabilities, Inclusion Canada, L'Arch, Realize, Rick Hansen Foundation, Spinal Cord Injury Canada, Wavefront Center for Communication Accessibility. All rights reserved. End of video. Fade to black.